Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to show you how to make your own tear skirt. As you can see, this is a very beautiful skirt and I'll teach you how to sew yours and work yours. For this tutorial, this is measurement you'll be needing: your skirt length, your waist circumference measurement, and your hip circumference measurement. And tools I'll be using for this tutorial is this African print. You can use any other fabric of your choice. I also got this black cotton fabric that I'll be using for my tear. I got a matching zip. You can use any fabric, any zip that match the color of the fabric you are using. I got a matching thread, my tracy wheel, my marker pens. I also have my tape here, and last on the list is my pattern master. As you can see on the pattern paper, I've already drew my zipper allowance. I use 0.5 inch, that is half-inch seam allowance. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark 2 inches from the edge of the pattern paper. So you measure and mark points. Make sure you have 2 points so that your line will be straight. Then you rule across those mark points. Then label it. This is going to be your waistline. So I'm writing my waistline. The next thing is you are going to measure your hip measurements. Mine is 8. I'm going to add 1 inch to it because that's where I want my side to start from. I've ruled the line. I want my first side to start 1 inch below my hip line. The next thing I'm going to do now is to label it as a hip line. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark my skirt length. I'm going to be removing 2 inches. As you can see, I extended 2 inches from the waistline. Then I'm going to mark 30 inches, which is my skirt length measurement. That 2 inches is for the band. So I'm ruling the hem of the skirt. At this point, this is what the landmark of your skirt will be looking like. The next thing I'm going to do is to apply measurement on this landmark. The first thing I did was mark 1/4 of my waist measurement on my waistline, 1/4 of my hip measurement on the hip line, and I also mark 1/4 of my hip measurement on the hem line. Whatever you mark on the waistline, on the hip line, that's what you are going to mark on the hem line as well. I forgot to add my dart amount, which is 1 inch to the waistline. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm adding my dart allowance or amount. So I'm going to use my pattern master to connect the curve, the points. Not curve, the points. I'm going to use my pattern master to connect the points. So and you are going to connect the hip line to the hem line with a straight line. Make sure the line is straight because you have the same measurement on both the hip line and the hem line. The next thing I'm going to do is to insert our dart. Measure 4 inches from the center front of your pattern. You can see I mark 4 inches from that red line. My dart amount is 1 inch, so I'm marking half inches on both sides of that dart point. You get a ruler and extend the line from the middle point, that is your dart point. As you can see, my dart is 6 inches long. 6 inches. Extend the line to the point. Then I drew my darts The next thing I'm going to do after drawing my dart is to measure half inches away from the waistline at the center front. You can see I've marked half inches. Then I extend a line which is not more than 3 inches from that mark point. Then I curve it back to the sideways. Remember that the waistline is not always straight. So I'm blending the lines with my pattern markers. That's all for the skirt front pattern. Next thing I'm going to do is to alter this skirt to create my tier skirt pattern. The first part of the skirt is the yoke, because I want my tier skirt to have a yoke at the top. So I'm cutting this part on fold. And my first tier is going to be 9 inches from the hip line. 9 inches. I've marked the point and I rule across that point. So I'm going to label this as my first tier. And the last part of the skirt is going to be my second tier. Take a look at the pattern very well. This is a yoke skirt that has tiered designs at the bottom. For the skirt back pattern, I mark half an inch from the waistline. I move up half an inch from the waistline. Then I extend the line which is no more than 3 inches from that half an inch point. And I connect it back to the sideways. You can use your free hand and you can also use your rulers. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to extend my dart leg to touch the back waistline. So everything is the same as the front, except that the skirt back pattern has the zip allowance. That's the only difference it has from the skirt front pattern. I went ahead to trace out my back skirt pattern. I traced out the yoke part, and as you can see, I've added the seam allowance. I did the same for the first tier of the skirt. You are going to be cutting 2 pieces each for each pattern. If you notice, I didn't trace out the second tier because I'm cutting a cycle skirt for that part of the skirt. To get the radius of my first tier, I'm going to divide my hip measurement by 6.28. After that, whatsoever result I get, I will mark it on the paper the way you see me doing in the video. I've finished marking the radius of my skirt. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark the length of my first tier. Remember, the length of my first tier is 9 inches. I will add 1.5 inches for overlap, so that it will overlap the second tier. Then I will add extra 0.5 inch to it for the hem allowance. So that is what I'm going to do right now. I'm marking the length of my first tier, which is 9 inches. That is 9 inches. The next thing, you are adding 1.5 to it, that is 10.5 inches. And remember, the half is hem allowance, that is 11 inches. So you mark 11 inches round the paper. You will be taking your reading from the radius of this skirt. So follow what I did in the video as a guidance to know how to go about your own tier skirt. As you can see in the video, I'm using my free hand to connect the points together that I've marked. So I noticed when I try to use the pattern paper, it's not helping me out at all. So to make my work more easier, so I'm going to use my hand to trace the points before going out to blend those lines with my pattern paper, pattern master. And please do not forget to add your seam allowance to the upper part of the skirt. If you could remember, the length of our second tier is 10 inches. So on the cycle skirt, I'm going to be marking 10 inches from the radius. I will add 0.5 inches to it, making 10.5. The 0.5 inches is for the hem allowance, because I don't want to cut two cycle skirt. So I'm going to use this same pattern to cut out our second tier. After cutting the first tier, I will trim off the hem allowance of the first tier to cut out the second tier. So that's why I'm marking my second tier in the first tier pattern. When we get to that part, you will understand. When we get to the cutting part, you will take your reading from the radius and mark points. You do the same thing again. You take your reading from the radius, not from the seam allowance, from the radius. Then you mark. So I'm using a different marker pen to connect the points, so that I know which is my first tier and the second tier. I'm using my freehand as usual before going in with my pattern master to blend the line very well. As you can see, this is what your skirt pattern should be looking like. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to trim off the excess, the parts that I don't need. So watch what I'm doing. Make sure you are doing the same thing. I'm cutting the hem of the first tier. The second tier is the one with the red marker. I did not add 1.5 inches to the second tier because I'm not overlapping it. So this is what you should be having at the end of the day. For the skirt band, I will measure my waist measurements and add 2.5 inches to it. This is going to be a long rectangular piece. So the width of my band is going to be 5 inches. So I'm marking 5 inches from the edge of the pattern paper. And then I went in with my pattern master to blend my mark points. Follow what I'm doing in the paper to achieve yours as well. You make sure that your lines are straight. And you are going to be cutting one piece of this band, just one piece. These are all my pattern pieces. I have my cycle skirts, my band, I have my first and second yoke, that is my front yoke and my back yoke. I have my first tier, my front tier, my back tier. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to transfer these pattern pieces to my fabric. So at this point, if you are here to subscribe to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video, and please give this video a thumb up and click on the notification bell so when I post new video, you be among the first person to get notified. So right now I've placed my pattern on the fabric and I'm cutting it out. I'm doing, I'm cutting the band of my skirt. You can see my fabric is not on fold. I'm cutting just one long piece. Right now I'm cutting my first tier. I remove the pins. I'm going to be trimming off the hem allowance of the first tier so that I'll be able to cut my second tier. Can you see? So instead of wasting your pattern paper, you can actually cut your souffle in one paper. That's what I just did now. So I'm going to place this on the fabric and cut my second tier. So I went ahead to cut my linings for the skirt. The first I'm going to do is to pin and sew my dart, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm taking it to my machine to sew, and I'll give it a nice space after sewing. I have sewn my dart and I've given it a nice space. I ironed it, and this is what it's looking like at this point.
and I've ironed the fabric as well. I did the same for the lining piece. With wrong side facing wrong side, I'm going to top stitch on the fabric to conceal my seams. After top stitching, this is what the yoke part of my skirt is looking like. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to be sewing this horsehair braid to the skirt, to the hem of our cycle skirt that we cut out.
And you're going to be sewing.
After sewing the horsehair braid to the skirt, I gave this skirt a nice press. I ironed it. Make sure you iron very well.
So as you can see, I've sewn my crinoline to my skirt, and this is what the ending part is looking like. And this is what I went ahead to give it a nice press, and you can see how wavy. Let me shift this to the back so you can see this. You can see how wavy, and you can see how wavy it looks. So I have,
As you can see, I've sewn my front tear and my back tear together, the first tear, and I have one piece. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach our cycle skirt to the tear. Please watch what I'm doing in the video and follow my steps so that you can achieve the same results. You attach the first flare to the top of the first tier, then you place your yoke on it and sew. And you attach the second flare to the bottom end of the first tier as well. You know the first tier has 1.5 inches, extra 1.5 inches, so it's going to overlap the second flare.
what I have here. So let me so you can see what my skirt is looking like. It has the waving, and because because of the one, I have 1.5 inches overlapping this side, and because I have my hair, horse hair, you can see how wavy my skirt is looking like. The next thing I'm going to do is going to be adding my zip. So I'm going to be adding it to the side of my skirt, and the back of the skirt. This is what your back of the skirt will be looking like. I line the front and the first side. I attach the last flare to the first side. So this is what they will be looking like. So next is going to do is to attach the zipper. You can see what the zipper is looking like. So I'm going to attach.
Our skirt now have a zip, and I love what I have here. It's looking so pretty, so beautiful. Mwah. God bless my handwork. This is our band. Please iron an interface into it. You can use SD, you can use paper stay, but for this tutorial I'm using a paper stay. Activate the gun with it, that is your iron. So that's what I'm doing right now. Trim off excess paper stay. I'm sewing the band to the skirt. After sewing the band to the skirt, I gave my band a nice press, and our skirt is ready. You can rock this to the church, to the office, to an occasion. Wow, this is beautiful. Always appreciate your handwork. Always appreciate your handwork. You are your first fan, you are your first cheerleader, so always appreciate your little win. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You like this video, you share, you comment. I will appreciate your comments, and your suggestion, and you can make a request as well. And if you want me to upload a tutorial or you want me to teach you something, don't hesitate to ask me a question. And now you can see the inside of our skirt is so beautiful.